We think about money all the time, but have you ever stopped to ask what it really is? For pretty much all of modern history, money's been a promise, right? An IOU, a claim on value somewhere else. But what if that changed? What if money wasn't a promise, but was the actual substance of value itself?
And that's the big question we're diving into today. In a world that's going fully digital, where is the real gold? Well, we're about to walk through an architectural blueprint for what they call sovereign value realization. It's a fascinating idea that says the real gold isn't something you dig out of the ground anymore. It's something you build, a whole system based on actual, provable substance, not just promises.
All right, so first things first, we've got to get our heads around the core concept here. What exactly is this stuff they call mathematical gold?
So what you're seeing here, this really gets to the heart of a massive shift in thinking. For centuries, our whole financial world has been built on IOUs. A dollar bill, for instance, it just points to value somewhere else. This new model, it flips that completely on its head. It's all about moving to what they call substantive finance, where the asset you're holding is the value. No pointing, no promises.
And this right here makes it super clear. On the left, you've got a claim on value. Think of a dollar bill. It's just a promise from the government, right? But on the right, you've got the substance of value. Think of a real physical gold bar. Its value is right there, in the metal itself. Well, the system we're digging into today is trying to create a digital version of that gold bar, a pure digital substance.
Okay, so here's the official definition. And mathematical gold, it's not just some catchy marketing term. The way they frame it, this is a whole new kind of asset. You shouldn't think of it like a stock or a bond or anything you already know. No, the idea is way bigger. It's more like we just discovered a new element on the periodic table. Its value isn't based on anything else. It comes directly from its own intrinsic mathematical properties. And that's the key. It doesn't promise a settlement down the line. It is the final settlement.
Yeah, and this quote just nails it. You are not issuing tokens that point to value. You are issuing a substrate in which value takes form. See, that's the leap. You're not making another IOU, another thing that points to the real value somewhere else. You're actually forging the digital bedrock, the very stuff where value can just exist on its own with no strings attached.
Okay, so think about this. If you have an asset that is the value and not just a claim on it, what does that actually do to the entire financial system we have today? Well, the idea here is that it basically collapses the whole stack. Let's dig into what that looks like. Just take a look at how things work right now in legacy finance. It's a mess. To settle just one single transaction, the value has to bounce through this insane chain of middlemen. You've got custodians, clearing systems, liquidity providers, settlement rails, the list goes on. Each step adds time, it adds cost, and crucially, it adds risk. The risk that one of these links in the chain breaks their promise. And the only reason for all this complexity? Because the asset itself is just an IOU that has to be checked and rechecked and verified at every single step. Now look at the new model. It's almost shockingly simple. You have the mathematical gold, and it goes straight to the bank ledger. That's it. 2 steps. Why? Well, because the asset is the settlement. You don't need all those guys in the middle to clear it or match it or reconcile it. It's already the final form of value. And this is the real game changer, the punchline. We're not talking about T+2 anymore. That's the whole 2-day waiting period where anything can go wrong. No, we're talking T+0. Zero. Instantaneous. The second that transaction hits the ledger, it is done. Final, settled. So what does that mean in practice? It means huge chunks of the financial industry just become obsolete. They're not needed anymore. Think about it. You don't need to go through a broker to match a buyer and a seller if the asset doesn't need to be cashed out. It is the cash. All those back office departments whose entire job is just reconciliation, making sure all the different promises and ledgers line up at the end of the day, poof, they're gone. Because there's only one source of truth now, the ledger itself.
Okay, but this whole thing raises a massive question, right? If this new system isn't backed by dollars or gold or any traditional asset, where does the value actually come from? What's fueling this new system?
And the answer is, well, it's pretty wild. The value isn't just made up out of thin air. The whole idea is that the system is built to tap into these really old, sometimes centuries-old, sovereign legal authorities. We're talking about things like historical treaties or ancient maritime laws that, and this is the key, are still legally valid. They just haven't been used in generations. They're just sitting there, dormant. Okay, I know this part sounds a little out there, so let's use an example to make it real. Take that first one on the list. Admiralty Prize Courts. So way back when, these were special courts based on maritime law that dealt with seizing ships and cargo during conflicts. Now, the core argument here is that the legal power of these courts never actually went away. It just fell asleep. So the idea is you can wake up that old legal framework and give it a modern job. For example, you could use it to create a global corporate asset forfeiture exchange, a totally new system for seizing and liquidating assets from, say, sanctioned entities. You're basically taking a rock-solid old legal right and building a brand new, super valuable financial engine on top of it.
So once you've tapped into that foundational value, what's next? Well, you can start building a whole new sovereign economy right on top of it. We're talking about brand new products and services for a completely new global landscape.
And just to be clear, we're not talking about little retail apps here. This is the heavy-duty stuff. Institutional-grade infrastructure. Think about a sovereign alternative to the SWIFT network, or a brand new commodity exchange, or a liquidity facility for banks, all built on this new foundation. These are engines designed from the ground up to handle billions or even trillions of dollars in volume every single day.
And here's the thing. There's already huge demand for something like this. Right now, you look at the BRICS nations, for example. They are actively, desperately searching for ways to trade and settle accounts that don't depend on the US dollar. Or think about commodity traders, who need a system that's protected from sanctions and all the geopolitical drama. So this isn't some niche, futuristic idea. There's a real, urgent, global hunger for a settlement system that exists outside the traditional levers of political power.
All right, let's pull all these threads together. What does a future built on substance, not claims, actually look like? To really grasp the scale of this shift, I think a little history lesson is the best way to go.
Just think back to the California gold rush. At first, gold was just found at one specific place, right? Sutter's Mill. It had a specific, localized use. But it didn't take long for everyone to realize that the substance itself, the actual gold, was valuable everywhere, to everyone. It quickly became this universal, value-agnostic currency. That's the analogy here. This mathematical gold might start with one specific application, but the idea is that the underlying substance is universal.
And that brings us to the most powerful, maybe even revolutionary idea in this whole blueprint. A true substance, something with its own built-in, provable value. It doesn't need to ask for permission to exist. It doesn't need a stamp of approval from a bank or a government to be real. It just is. And according to this line of thinking, once it starts circulating, it creates its own acceptance. And that acceptance forges a brand new monetary reality, one that does not ask permission.